So if you don't mind my asking, what are you exactly?
Well, actually speaking, you know, I've been asked this a lot, and I am a bump in the lawn in what really is officially known as Bumpity Park.
Right here, actually where I'm sitting right now is right in Bumpity Park. It started in '71. I was actually the floor director, and my biggest responsibility other than setting up the set was to hold the book and turn the pages of the book. The story lady would read along, the director would read along, and then the director would call the page turn, and I would turn the page. And that was my first job really with Bumpity. And then in '72, when I started directing the show on a regular basis.
And I designed the set, did a little model, and my friend Lynn Miller, who was building the sets there by that time, did a wonderful job taking my little model and then translating it into one that worked very well for us.
The basic set was like a rock wall, and in all actuality it was two pieces that bolted together. And it was made with plywood that was cut out with ribs, and then polyfoam covered all of those ribs. Over that polyfoam was put a heavy canvas, and it was all painted with scenic rock textures, except for the very top, which was painted green like there was moss and things, so Bumpity would be there.
And that really was a great set. It was, when that first rolled out, it was beyond our expectations.
I'd watch Bumpity if he came back. He was on Sunday mornings, and there was absolutely nothing else on TV because there was no cable.
What was it like when the TV would come on Sunday and there would be?
Yay, it's kids. Oh, Bumpity. Sunday always sucked. Starting off with Bumpity.
You know, when I couldn't do it any longer, and the guys are in a suitcase, you know, once in a while I do take them out, just because it sounds a little strange, I suppose. I really miss it.
I could take him out, and all of a sudden there's Scotty there with his Scottish burr, and
oh, glad to meet you. My name's Scotty McThussle.
and Digger with his down under twang, you know.
I was digging a tunnel from Perth to Sydney, and somehow I got a wrong turn someplace, and I tunneled and I tunneled and I tunneled, and next thing you know I come up in a place called Bumpity Park in the United States of America. So he said I could stay, but I was to keep my clan away from it.
I think Fred was invented to give Bumpity a hand, really, you know, so he could hold things, so he could bring things up.
He wasn't on right at first. We just started the park, and then I don't know, maybe he heard us talking or something. The next thing you know, here's this big blue worm with a little plaid bow tie on, and said his name was Fred.
Poor Fred. He's eclipsed by Bumpity, and he's very sweet, and he's a worrywart.
And I was the only one, you know, that could figure out what he was saying, because he talks high worm.
You know, Bumpity would go, "Oh, Fred's just told me that someone from the library is here to read another book."
Oh, what's that, Fred? You're kidding. Oh, Fred just told me that you're retiring from the library. Is that right?
Yep. He was reminding me about the time that we built a motorcycle for him, a wormocycle, I guess you would call it, and he got arrested.
We arrest Fred for riding on a motorcycle around the park. But he's a nice cop, and he says, you know, I don't want him to get squashed on the pavement.
Poor little Fred. He just goes along because Bumpity's going somewhere.
Then there was one time when Fred was superworm.
The story of how this tiny creature grew to young wormhood, of how he displayed amazing physical powers unknown on this planet. It's Superworm! Down, down, and away!
Bob asked me if I'd like to do the Christmas show.
What do you mean that Tony says she can't be here? Well, did you try phoning Shari? Could she be here?
I didn't know the history of the Christmas show. So I said, sure.
You just take this right here, This thing that Fred's got. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Now just open it up and look at it. See?
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this is a script for a Christmas show.
I see.
Yeah.
How the Brunch Stole Christmas.
Yeah.
And we didn't have very much time to do it. And I think anything that could go wrong went wrong. Stuff fell, the scenery fell, you name it, it went wrong, and we only had one shot at it, so we just had to keep going.
Drat it, I ache all over. What's the matter with you guys anyway? Goodness sakes.
Nobody wanted to do these things because they knew it was going to be a disaster.
I don't suppose you might be interested in coming around next Christmas, huh?
Well, no, I think I'm going to be out of town next Christmas.
That's funny, you're not the only person that keeps saying that sort of a thing here.
Someplace in the environs of Portland, Oregon, there is a little patch of ground that, you know, if you know the right way to get to it, you'll find it.
It's one of the world's smallest parks, and you know, it had a path through it, and there was Fred and I, and there was mostly surrounded by streets.
It's really a rather small park. You get more than one thistle and one mole and one worm and one bump, and you know, we'd have to expand.
The place it really was in kids' imagination.